Guys, it's July. We're already halfway through the year. I don't know how we got here so fast. I feel like I blinked and we're now here in July. It's kind of crazy. If your goals fell off back in February, don't worry, there's no need to panic. I know some of you guys might be thinking, I really should pick up on those goals and they just kind of fell off, and then you find excuses to put them back and back and back, but not today. Today marks halfway through the year and we're going to be able to reach our goals by the end of December. In today's video, we're going to do a mid-year reset. I'm going to talk you through how I reflect, plan and reset my goals without feeling the need of any pressure. There are a lot of different ways that you can go about doing this, but I'm going to show you the easiest way that you can get back on track with your goals. Before we jump into the video, if you enjoy self-development or self-growth content with a little vlog sprinkled in here and there, then subscribe, because this is what we're all about here on this channel. So things may not have exactly gone to plan for you from January up until now, meaning that the first thing you're going to want to do is reflect on a few things. So essentially doing this is going to prevent these same things from happening again in the future. Reflecting is simply going to consist of 4 questions that you need to think about when reviewing the first half of your year. For the self-reflection part, it's going to be best if you grab like a journal or a notebook or even on your notes app, because you're going to need to answer these 4 questions. So now that you've got your journal or your notes app or whatever it is, we need to think about the first half of the year with these 4 questions. The first question is, what worked? The second question is, what didn't work and why? The third question is, what surprised you or shifted your focus? And the fourth question is, what do you want to prioritize? When thinking about what worked, don't be so harsh on yourself. I know as humans, that's kind of, but we end up being so harsh and critical of ourselves, but really think about the months of January up until now. What is it that you've been able to achieve so far that you're actually very proud of? And one of the things that you actually wanted to achieve this year, it might be big, it might be little, but write down what things worked for you. And when you're writing those things, I'd like you to have a think about why. Why did those things work for you? Was it something you were very passionate about, so you found it easy to kind of do those goals and mark off the checklist for those goals? Or was it because you were just super focused and you actually made time for this particular thing because it was so important in your life? Just have a reflection on that and think about why those things that you're writing down worked. When thinking about what didn't work and then the why behind that, for example, this could be something like the gym. The gym is a goal that a lot of people set out for themselves, but if you're setting an extremely high amount, such as maybe I want to go 3 to 4 times a week, maybe when you came home from work, you really weren't in the mood to then get up and go to the gym again in terms of motivation. You maybe just didn't have any. And then that resulted in just a lack of doing it completely. Now you fell back on this goal. So why didn't it work? Is it because you were too exhausted to then get up and drive or walk to the gym after work? Think about alternatives. Maybe is it something where you could do a home workout? Or maybe get some appliances or equipment that you could use at home instead, so you're not having to physically go out again and go to the gym or walk to the gym, and it's right there in front of you at your home. You don't have any excuses, and maybe you'll have a little bit more energy to actually do those things. When thinking about what surprised you or shifted your focus, was there something that maybe you hadn't written down, for example, in January, but after a few months, it was something that just came about and it was just something that you wanted to do and prioritize the time for, and that kind of shifted your focus for this one particular goal? Or maybe you set out to do a certain goal and it maybe changed into another. Just think about anything that surprised you in terms of your goals, or if your focus got shifted a little bit and why you think that was. It could be that something that you really thought you were passionate about and would have easily ticked off on your goals, maybe you didn't, and that kind of surprised you. So maybe that's something you want to write down and then kind of think about, why was that? And look deeper into that, if that is genuinely a goal that you want to continue to pursue in these next 6 months. And the last question, which is, what do you want to prioritize? We're halfway through the year now, so it may be that you feel a little bit more clearer on your goals and what it is that you truly want to focus on, and what's going to help you flourish the most in this second half of the year for you in your life. I want you to pick your top 3 main goals. So if you're struggling with this, cast your mind back to January, use the goals that you made at the beginning of this year and just narrow them down. If you are really struggling, then I want you to pick the ones that will create the most enjoyment for you in your life. Which ones are gonna help you to flourish? Which ones do you genuinely want to do and are drawn to? Which ones are just going to create the most enjoyment for you overall for these next 6 months? It's okay to pivot your goals mid-year, because realistically, not everybody's life looks exactly the same from the beginning of the year to the end. So maybe it is that your life is a little bit more different or completely different to what it looked like in January. So you may just have to reshift or reevaluate your goals, which is kind of what we were doing in that last portion there when we were doing our reflection. However, now that you've reflected on your previous goals, you're gonna need to work on reframing these goals. Now, out of the top 3 goals that you picked in the previous session that we just discussed, I want you to think about which one's gonna just stay completely the same. So the goal that you had originally at the beginning of this year, is that still the current goal and we don't need to change anything about this goal? Or do we need to tweak it slightly? Does your life now look a little bit different, and so this goal we kind of want to change it a little bit up and reformulate it to match our current situation? And lastly, I want you to think about, is this a brand new goal? This could be a brand new goal that you just want to add into the equation here with the top 3. Now, out of the top 3 goals that you have previously picked, I want you to think about, are any gonna just stay completely the same? This is the goal that we wanted originally and currently this is still the goal. Or do we want to tweak this slightly? Do you want to change things around a bit? Or is this a completely brand new goal at this point? Maybe something's come about in the first half of the year that you now want to work on from now until the end of the year, and it's a brand new goal that you didn't have at the beginning of this year. However, these are all going to compose of your top 3. So maybe all of them are staying the same. That's completely fine. Or maybe all of them need to be tweaked. Or maybe all of them are brand new goals, or a mixture of staying the same, tweaking slightly, or a brand new goal. So just to break this down a little bit more for you for understanding purposes, the beginning one in terms of keeping it exactly the same, we're just going to call that keep. So this is a goal that you are still working on, because again, we created it at the beginning of the year and it's something that we want to keep the same and still want to work on. So that is keep. For the second one, we're tweaking it slightly, that is change. And that is just a goal that we are tweaking slightly or amending to fit our current status, change. And then lastly, we're gonna have start. So this is a new goal that you want to try out. So keep, change, and start. For me personally, one of my goals right at the beginning of this year was to kind of find my love again for photography. And at the beginning of the year, I set a goal for this. Thinking to this current day, I haven't been able to hit it as I intended to. So that goal has kind of fell short for me. So in terms of this, I changed mine up and I tweaked it slightly so it was more realistic and fitted my current lifestyle and the pace of my life currently is. My original goal with this was to plan these mass-produced photo shoots, find a model, like compose the whole thing, but it really did fall short because one, my 9 to 5, my like actual structured lifestyle came into play, so my energy was very depleted, and then along with this came the procrastination, and that whole kind of cycle meant that that goal fell short. So how I tweaked it, I essentially just set lower standards so it wasn't this mass-produced photo shoot. I was just set a goal to myself to go out once or twice a week with my film camera, on a walk. So I was just going to take my film camera on a walk with me and document whatever I wanted to on that walk to find my love again for photography. That's just an example from my own life on how I tweaked one of my goals from January to fit my current lifestyle and kind of status now. Now that you have reframed your goals, I'm assuming that at least one out of the 3 of these goals is going to be a bigger goal. So you may have 1 bigger goal, 2 bigger goals, or all 3 of them may be bigger goals. So with these bigger goals, you're going to want to break them up into either 3 monthly intervals or monthly milestones. This way, your goals are going to be a lot more achievable, especially if you're working a 9 to 5, because you're able to hold yourself more accountable, have these reflective periods and these milestones to be like, okay, I've broken up into this chunk. Let me have a look at what I wanted to do, what I set out to do. Have I done it? Okay, if I have, let's move forward with the next portion of the goal, etc. As we've mentioned, we only have 6 months left of the year. I say only, that is still a very big chunk of the year left. If you want to be very specific with your goal, I would say the best thing to do is to set them out into monthly milestones. So the bigger goal that you have out of your top 3, you're going to want to break it up into monthly milestones. So this way, as I mentioned, it's going to be a lot more achievable for you. You can reflect upon it, see what worked, what didn't, if we are hitting our goals, and it just keeps you in check to progression. However, if it's a bigger goal that's going to take a longer period of time to actually achieve, then this is where you're going to want to use the 3-month intervals in order to achieve your goals. So how this would work is you would have your main goal and you can split this up into 3-month intervals. So for the first 3 months, you might be like, okay, I want to do this first half of my goal in the first 3 months. I want to be by here at the end of this 3-month period, and then we can move on to our next 3-month interval, and then we will be able to finalize the goal at the end of that second 3-month interval. So just to recap that, essentially, if you want to be more specific and more thorough with your goals and the bigger goals, then the monthly milestones are going to be what you want to aim for here. However, if this goal that you want to do or want to achieve is going to take a longer period of time just because of whatever it is, then you want to do the 3-month intervals in 2 blocks. Speaking of blocks, I'm going to give you some realistic planning tips, especially if you work a 9 to 5, on how you can intertwine this with your schedule and your daily schedule at that. The first thing that's going to really help you is time blocking. Now, what I mean by this is setting aside a realistic amount of time that you're going to be able to dedicate towards achieving that goal. For example, if I wanted to learn crochet, I may say, okay, I want to dedicate at least 3 days out of the week towards learning about crochet. Within those 3 days, realistically, how much time am I going to have to play with after I finish my 9 to 5? I'm going to be able to still have the energy to do that. So out of those 3 days of the week, on those days, I may dedicate 1 to 2 hours after I come home from my shift to do that. That's realistic. I'm not saying I'm going to dedicate a whole 3 days out of the week to do that, because nobody's going to be able to do that if you've got a 9 to 5. So realistically, I'm saying 1 to 2 hours for 3 days in the week to dedicate towards learning crochet. Again, it's bit by bit, time blocking, step by step, that's going to help you to hit those targets because you are dedicating realistic time towards this and not burning yourself out. The second thing that's going to help you to be realistic with this approach is mini goals per week. What I mean by this is it's a little bit of a callback to the previous video that I did in terms of my Sunday reset routine. I'll have that linked up in the corner. But essentially, at the end of each week, we did an end of week reflection. In this end of week reflection, you looked at what worked, what didn't work, and what you want to achieve for the following week. So in that last step, what you want to achieve for the following week, that is some small baby goals that you can create towards the next week. So realistically, doing that is going to help you to stay accountable, and also you're still staying on track. You're not letting a week go by or 2 weeks go by where we've completely ignored the goal that we set out to achieve. Each week you're holding yourself accountable and stating, okay, this is what I've done this week, and this is what I want to do the following week to get closer to that goal. For example, we can still use the example of the crochet. So if that week I was like, okay, I wasn't able to spend 2 hours on it. Realistically, the most amount of time I was able to spend was 1 hour. Maybe I bring it down to 2 days out of the week. I strictly dedicate 1 hour after I finish work to crochet. At least then I know, okay, I'm trialing this out for the next week, and it may work a lot better because the previous week it didn't work as good. This week now, I'm reducing the time, but I'm still staying consistent. And we'll talk about this a little bit later, but consistency is going to be key here. We all have bad days, and that's completely fine, but just recognizing that to keep the momentum is going to help you to reach those goals a lot faster. The third and last tip that's going to help you with realistically planning for these goals, these bigger goals, and having an action plan for this is batching. Now, what do I mean by batching? For example, meal prepping. You want to dedicate out a specific day of the week where you are going to batch prepare all of the things that you need to do and that take up time in your day-to-day life. Cooking for the majority of people is going to be the main one, myself included. So I don't know if this could be whatever day of the week suits you best, but for me, it's a Sunday. So on a Sunday, that's where I make my meal prep for the week, including breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So that's what I do, and that's the bulk, because now in my week, I don't have to spend time, spend energy, spend thought process thinking, oh my gosh, what am I gonna have tonight? I've come home from work, oh my gosh, what am I gonna have tonight? So doing that on the Sunday completely wipes that, gives me more free time to set aside an hour or so for these goals to happen and for me to work on making my goals more achievable to then reach them. Thinking about that, it may be for you preparing your clothes or your outfits, should I say, for the week. Maybe to get ahead of the game and to give you more free time, you want to do that. Clothes washing, making sure that that's all done in preparation. The ironing, maybe that, like washing up, like cleaning, all these things, making sure that you just batch do this and batch prepare it on one particular day out of the week that suits you best is really going to help you in the long run, because it frees up a lot of extra time in the rest of the week for you to dedicate your time towards actually achieving these different goals. You guys may be able to see behind me, I have like a whiteboard where I kind of have it there visually to keep myself accountable. I also, as I said in my previous video, love my Apple Calendar. I write everything in there. I need to have it in like 3 different places, like here, my notes app, and like in a written notebook somewhere as well. That's just me, but again, whatever works for you best in terms of planning, preparing, where you want to write down these goals, how you're going to break them up. Are you going to do the 3 monthly intervals, or are you going to do the monthly milestones? Where are you going to record this information? I have my board here where I'm able to break up like my habits, my goals for the month, what I've got planned, and then I also have a to-do list, which is more of a daily thing underneath. That's not for everybody, but it's whatever works for you. Just make sure that you have somewhere to reflect on what it is that you set out to do, or else you're gonna have nothing to take accountability for because you can't track it. There's nothing to track. How are you going to track your progress if we don't have it down somewhere? So thinking of everything that we've talked about today, the first thing that you want to do is have that reflection. Ask yourself those 4 questions, write down your answers, and that kind of is the starting process of what was working for me, what didn't work, and why. Having that reflection to be like, okay, well, based on that and based on the goals that I set in January at the beginning of the year, what do I want to prioritize right now until the end of this year. The second thing is then reframing your goals. So thinking about that, which ones are we going to keep the same? Are we going to keep any the same? Which ones do I want to tweak or change, if any? And do I have any new goals? And making sure that you pick your top 3. And finally, the action plan. So again, is it going to be those monthly milestones, or do you want to separate it into 2-3 month intervals to help you achieve those bigger goals, to track it and to make sure it's as achievable and realistic as possible? Also thinking about those helpful tips such as time blocking, mini weekly goals and batching. You don't need January to start your goals. The best time is going to be when you're ready, and that could be today. If it is today, then we have until the rest of the year now, from now up until December. You still got those 6 months in to reach those goals. And honestly, you can break it down. It doesn't have to be this hard working thing. We just need to take a bit of reflection time, look at what we wanted to achieve. Does that still align with what we want now? And how am I going to make this work until December, essentially? Progress is going to be a lot better than perfectionism. I know myself from like previous instances, I am a little bit of a perfectionist, and that is sometimes what can roll on into procrastination, because I'm like, I'm not ready yet, I don't have this yet, I don't have this yet, I can't do it until I have this because then it will be perfect. No, let's just start now and work on our progress. Nothing's ever going to be perfect, so if you're waiting for perfection, it's never going to happen, meaning you're probably never going to end up achieving those goals. So make sure that your progress is at the forefront of everything. One thing that I'm learning is a key thing for me is consistency. So I'm showing up for you guys. I'm going to be posting once a week. That's consistency for me. You guys hold me accountable. I'm holding myself accountable by mentioning it in this video, but also having that consistency is going to continue the progress. And like I said, some days are going to be harder than others, but as long as you are keeping that progress, tracking it, you will be able to achieve those goals a lot sooner than you think. So I'm interested to hear what's one goal that you guys are resetting or starting afresh this season. Make sure to put it down in the comments below. Give this video a like, and again, subscribe if you haven't already. More videos like this will be coming out once a week. So I'll see you guys in the next video.